About to begin another session of the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen, from the garage. And thank you for joining us, whether it's on Facebook, the Facebook page, where you can actually see what's going on around us, or maybe you're listening to us on a podcast. Now you can recommend us to your friends if you like. I haven't listened to a lot of podcasts, so I don't really know what is in the offing. But what we try to do here is to cover a few of the things that the other media will not, or perhaps dare not, have an opinion on. It's certainly not an attempt by me to be hairy-chested or anything. It's just that I think some things should be talked about, and I'm acutely aware that the media is all too keen, for some strange reason, to look the other way. You know, there's a bit of political correctness, and there's a bit of I don't know, perhaps political interference, political ambition. A lot of the journalists I know fancy getting themselves a cushy job in the government, so you have to be careful who you offend. And if you happen to see that press club lunch with Paul Keating last week, how scathing he was of those journalists. He mentioned them. I'm not going to say what he said, but, well, he was even scathing of the President of the United States, let alone people from his own political party. But these people sometimes have a very, very long memory if you write something or say something that they don't like, or perhaps hits a nerve. Oh, by the way, let me see, who was it? I did have it down here. Oh, it was Ken. Ken got it right. I asked if anyone happened to know before Paul Keating got into politics, he was managing a pop group, a rock group, and I just wondered if anyone knew or remembered the name. Well, Ken did. It was, you're right, the Ramrods. In fact, I can honestly say that when I was doing Blind Date, it would have been 69, something like that, I have a dim recollection of the Ramrods being one of the group that came in to do the piece, the set piece, because we had a musical group come in and do something before we got on with the dating. And I wouldn't have been surprised if a very young Paul Keating met up with a very young Jeremy Cordeaux. Don't remember meeting him, though. Anyway, happy birthday if you're having a birthday or a wedding anniversary. Ken, I don't have a prize to give you, I'm sorry, but you were right, the Ramrods. March the 21st, attempt made to kidnap Princess Anne in London in broad daylight in Pall Mall. 1974. Mind you, she'd be quite a handful. You'd want to be a very, very tough old kidnapper. I think Princess Anne could look after herself. 1962, Yogi the bear, not Yogi Bear, you understand, but Yogi the bear, becomes the first creature to be ejected at supersonic speed by a US military testing ejection seat. Why would they put a perfectly innocent, unsuspecting bear through that kind of trauma? I don't think you'd be allowed to do that today. That was 1962. So I'm assuming that before 1962 they didn't have ejection seats. So if you had a problem in your jet, you just had a problem with your jet. And a bit of time to think about it before you collided with the ground. There wouldn't be anyone who hadn't heard of the Hatfields and the McCoys. You familiar with those, Pete?
Heard of them,
Well, it's in the language, isn't it? It's the personification of feuding. Well, a Hatfield married a McCoy, ending a long feud in West Virginia. It started with an accusation of a pig stealing. Someone stole a pig, or thought someone stole a pig. It lasted for 20 years. That was 1891 that they got married, and they kind of buried the hatchet. Well, perhaps that's not the right expression, but you know what I mean. During World War II, Allied bombers began a 4-day raid over Germany, 1945. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg admits they made mistakes. Oh God, we all do that. After data of 50 million users is harvested by Cambridge Analytica. Don't know anything about them, but that was 2018. Timothy Dalton, Welsh actor, James Bond, born in Wales, 1946. Journalist Henry Morton Stanley begins his famous expedition to Africa. He's the guy who found Dr. Watson. No. Stanley walks up to, now what was his name?
Yeah, I've heard it.
It's just Dr. something, I presume.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh dear.
I thought it was Watson.
Dr. Watson, I presume. Now, Dr. Watson was the sidekick of Sherlock Holmes.
But I still think...
Look, it'll come to me before the end of our show. I know it will. What else can I tell you about the day? The first ever tweet. Golly, 2008. No, I'm sorry. I need glasses. 2006. The first ever tweet sent out by the founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey. And it said, just setting up my tweet. You'd have really wanted to say, with the very first, when you want something more profound, something worth storing in history, I don't know. I suppose it did the job. Persia officially renamed Iran in 1936. Gary Oldman, he was great as Winston Churchill in The Darkest Hour. British Academy Award and BAFTA award-winning actor Gary Oldman. 1958 he was born. First Japanese kamikaze. That's the guys who were just sent out to do nothing but crash their aeroplane. They didn't even have enough fuel to get back to their carriers or their base. They were just told to go out there and commit suicide. Kamikaze. They attack Okinawa. And 1945, I guess, in the last throes and desperate throes of World War II, they were doing anything and everything. Barbara Streisand marries Elliot Gould in 1963. Michael Redgrave, British actor. Goodbye, Mr. Chips. Dies of Parkinson's disease in 1977. That was 1985. Ayrton Senna, who raced here in South Australia, brilliant car racer. I've got an autographed picture of him down there. Brilliant racer. Think about these people who race Formula One. The damn cockpit in a Formula One car is so tiny. And Ayrton, I swear, would have been about 4'10", maybe. But he fitted in just fine. He was a brilliant, brilliant driver. Ayrton Senna. He was born, he died in 1994, tragically, but doing what he loved. But he was born 1960. And Alcatraz prison in San Francisco Bay is closed. I think it's now a tourist attraction. 1963. That, having come from the travel world, Pete, the one thing you don't have to put on my itinerary. I don't particularly want to go to Alcatraz.
I'd like to have a look at it.
Too many ghosts, I would think. We were talking the other day about my uncertainties with regard to the internet and my not trusting internet banking. It's not everybody's view or paranoia, that's clear. But I see this latest global brand, a very big brand, Latitude, apparently hacked 328,000 clients. 328,000 clients. All their personal details stolen. I don't really think we can have too much confidence or peace of mind in the digital age. We can't rely on anyone to have a totally secure system. But how can you prepare yourself for that? How can you guard against that, except when people say, oh, we have to have this information? Don't give it to them, because you may as well stick an ad in the local paper. I remember we were warned a while back about a surge in the number of COVID cases here in Adelaide. They said about mid-March to watch out, simply because of the number of people attending festivals and functions at this incredibly festive, mad March time of the year. We're good at that here in our city. No doubt we're a lot more relaxed about COVID. But the cases now are very, very numerous. Very numerous. So I just want to say, please be careful. Take care. I had my 5th needle or booster on Saturday. It was the first one which left me with an aching arm. You know, I can barely hold my iPad. I don't know what that means. Just it was the first one that hurt. But it's a small price to pay. Peace of mind. I will continue to watch and monitor the ABC for its unbridled bias. And as you know, I think it could be so much better than it is. Whether it's the ambulance response times, or it's its coverage of the voice to Parliament, or it's the cost of electricity or climate change. The ABC, I think, is quite disgraceful. It seems to me to be simply a mouthpiece for the Labor government, the state Labor government. I'm talking about the local ABC here. I've been in the media for a long time, and I'm surprised that I'm the only person who is saying this kind of thing. Mind you, there's not much media in Adelaide, and what there is, apart from, of course, the court of public opinion, is, what can I say, asleep at the wheel? It's 1 year on since the Liberal Party got its bum kicked here at the state election. David Spears, not the journalist David Spears, but the leader of the Liberal Party here on the weekend said, and I quote, when being questioned about his party, he said, "I'm organising the back end of the party right now." What the hell does that mean? I'm organising the back end of my party. Does that mean he's giving them a kick in the bum? I'm not sure. I don't think, with great respect, he has a chance, David Spears, of winning an election for the Liberal Party. That's what I think. I don't know what the Liberal Party was thinking. Everything is about talent. It doesn't matter what field or business you're talking about, it's about talent. And frankly, what are they on about? The state Liberal Party or the federal Liberal Party, I really don't believe these guys have a hope in hell. I think they've lost the plot. If ever they had it, there have been some fine Liberal members of Parliament and politicians, and no doubt members of the party. But it seems to be a real problem attracting foreman material, first-class talent, people who will run for office. I don't know what the problem is exactly. They need a star. You know, they need a political star. As I've often said of stars generally, I don't know what makes them, but I tell you what, I can spot one when I see one. Now, we are not fools. There is no reason for these electricity bills that we are being threatened with. When we get them, this is a willful decision of the federal government. I really believe that. to deprive us of our natural benefits of, we own these fantastic resources. Gas and coal, we own them. All we're allowed to do really is sell them to other people so they can have the benefit. Pure ideological bloody-mindedness, or maybe it's part of the backroom deal that was done with the Greens. This is the only reason that we're getting these bills. So please don't forget that. It's the job of government to look after the interests of the people, not so much ideology. That can probably look after itself, or wait for a day when we can perhaps better afford it. But cost of living is a huge issue with most Australians. So we're subjecting ourselves to this impost in the cost of living willfully. And yes, I did hear a couple of people throw in, oh, there is a war, the price of gas internationally is much higher. Well, of course, internationally it is, because Russia was a big contributor on the world market. So without their contribution, gas is more scarce, so the cost will go up, supply and demand. But that's not in our case. We don't have that problem. And interestingly enough, we don't have that problem in Western Australia. They simply say the gas producers will satisfy the local market, and when that is done at local prices, you can export whatever is left till your heart's content at whatever price you can get. Now, if they can do it, a Labor government can do that in Western Australia, they should be able to do it all over Australia. And that it is not being done by other governments is a disgrace. Disgrace. I was talking to you about the ignorance surrounding nuclear energy. So much rubbish is spoken. We are not simply in a position with some of the largest and best deposits of uranium in the world to turn our backs on this technology. We all live with and depend on nuclear medicine. There is background radioactivity everywhere. There's probably no aspect of life, particularly modern life, that comes without some kind of risk. How about this little thought? We can't possibly develop your invention, sir. We couldn't possibly do this. What do you call it again? The wheel? Ah, the wheel. Look, do you know they might put the wheel on a cart? People might get run over. Things will move. Things may move too quickly. God knows where this wheel could take us, unless we are very careful and ban it. You see what I mean? If you find yourself with a God-given natural advantage, whether it is gas or coal, uranium or oil, I think a government is duty-bound to make the most of it. Forget the ideology. Just forget it. Have I got another second or three? Yeah. If you don't think that this is all about left-wing ideology, their attitude, I mean, towards uranium and the atomic age, imagine having the audacity to turn your back on the atomic age. I clearly remember when Roxby Downs was discovered, one of the world's great uranium deposits here in South Australia. Oh, we had a lot of fun. There was a lot of lobbying, there was arguments, there were interviews. People fought hard, very hard for the right to capitalise, realise and exploit this particular natural resource, worth billions. Parliament was deadlocked. The same thing would happen today if we found oil in South Australia. It would. Stupid, ignorant. Great left-wing goal in life is to stop developing, stop exploiting, stop exploring. Just print the money and keep on handing it out. Well, it doesn't work like that. Going back to my original story, there was one Labor Party guy who was prepared to cross the floor and break the deadlock. Vote in favour of Roxby Downs, developing Roxby Downs. His name was Norm Foster. I remember talking to him several times. My God, they put that man through hell. If it hadn't been for Norm Foster, Roxby Downs would never have happened. And because he crossed the floor, of course that's not allowed in Labor politics, he was politically destroyed, hounded, humiliated, and ultimately died in socialist disgrace. They wouldn't even speak to him. People he'd known all his life. I remember he almost cried when one of the last interviews I had with him, he was telling me more of the personal side of his decision. You don't rat on the Labor Party. Ask Norm Foster or indeed Vince Gare. That's going back a bit. There's a whole story in Vince Gare, Senator Vince Gare. Anyway, thank you very much for viewing our Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I really value your comments and your response. Have a great day, believe in yourself, and Pete and I will be back tomorrow. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Bye for now.